Hi, Clarkey. How are you, mate?
Very good. Yeah, good to see you, Bernie.
Good to see you, mate. Thanks for coming on to Shrimperscast to speak to us today.
Yeah,
I thought,
my
let's start at the start. We'll have a little trip down memory lane with you. You joined Blues in March '97 when we were still in the second tier. Ronnie Whelan brought you in on loan from Arsenal.
Yeah.
I was very pleased to see you turn up because finally someone else at Roots who had a decent barnet apart from myself. Because in those days you had some lovely long locks, didn't you?
I did. But, unlike you, I kind of grew out of it. I thought, well, while I'm young, I can get away with it. But you're still plodding on, Bernie.
Mate, it's still there. So the thing is, you've got to be man enough to handle it. You've got to be man enough to keep
chopped it, mate.
Never, mate, never.
It's trademark, isn't it? It's trademark.
It is trademark. Should get it painted. Anyway, so you came in. It was obviously a difficult time at the club. They were struggling in the Championship. 7 games you played. I think we only won one. It was a 2-1 win over Portsmouth. I think it was your home debut.
Yeah.
What do you remember about signing for Ronnie, coming to Southend?
Yeah, a few things, yeah. Of course, some of my memories are a little bit sketchy, but I do remember a couple of things about when I joined. First of all, the way that I joined, I was about to play a match for Arsenal reserves in Swansea, and I was warming up, and then I got called in for the warm up by the manager and said, "Oh, look, Southend want to take you on loan."
Who was the manager at the time?
George Armstrong, who is famous Geordie Armstrong, the late great. And so I went on the coach because there weren't really mobile phones then. So I went on the coach bus, the phone on the coach, and he said, "Oh, it's Ronnie Whelan here, blah blah blah. I'd love to bring you in on loan. We're struggling. We might well go down, but it'd be great to get you on board, blah blah blah."
So really got the enthusiasm going there.
Wait for this one. I mean, you might have heard me say this before, but he goes, one of his first questions was, "Do you like a drink?" I said, well, I thought it was a trick question. I was like, "Well, on a Saturday night, yeah, if have a couple, nothing crazy." He goes, "We got a cracking set of drinkers at the club. You'll love it, blah blah blah." I mean, it was some sales pitch, for a young player that had sort of been brought up at Arsenal. This was quite different. And then when I got there, obviously it was, he's great banter. Great, he was a real good guy, and the dressing room was really funny, and loads of talent in there, but it weren't a great team. Not at that level.
There was a lot of talented individuals there. I mean, you had obviously Ronnie Whelan as the manager, one of the most decorated players of all time at Liverpool. You had people like Paul Byrne, Mike Marsh, Jerome Bora, Roycey. Some really, really good players there on an individual basis who had obviously played at a good level or would go on to play a good level. I mean, why do you think that it didn't happen? Was it because of that drinking culture? Was it a bit too party?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I think everyone was there to have a good time. Maybe not enough focus on the business of winning matches. Not to say it was unprofessional. Training was always good. It wasn't when we played football. Everyone tried their hardest, but maybe there wasn't that focus. There wasn't a great deal of analysis, for example. Not a great deal of preparation. A great example was in my debut at Tranmere, and we went up there. It's on a Friday night, and the bell rang for the game. And
I thought he was going to say the final orders bell then.
The bell rang for the game, and I was like, we haven't even talked about set pieces or anything. So I said, Ronnie, who's on corners and free kicks? He goes, you have them.
I know there's a reason I brought you here, Clarkey.
I said, well, what do you normally do? Do you near post, far post, in swingers? Just swing it in there. Just swing it in there. It'll be fine. So, yeah, I got an inkling right away that maybe it wasn't the most organised, the most sort of diligent, I guess, in terms of prep. But, Ronnie was a great football mind and knows the game inside out and had a great relationship with the players. It's just the little things, the little details. Maybe he wasn't so hot on.
I mean, did he do much on the training pitch? Was he out there with you boys?
Playing, yeah, mainly playing. But Peter Trevivian was a good coach. He was with him, and he was a really good trainer, and he put on some interesting sessions. But Ronnie was still outstanding. He's chucking in nutmegs all over the place.
I bet he was doing nutmegs. Was he? Did someone say to him? I think did they have the old tyre set up in one of the goals hanging down? He used to just like kick a few free kicks through the centre of it.
I can't remember it, but that sounds about right. Yeah, he was still quality. He could easily have played. Mike Marsh was a brilliant player.
Yeah,
Paul Byrne was unbelievable when he was hot. When he was on it, he was unstoppable. But it was a bit inconsistent, like we all were really. So yeah, it was a talented team, but yeah, as a collective, maybe not. Yeah, not the best, and it was defensively. I think we always leaked a lot of goals, and we needed 2 or 3 to get anything out of most games. Which obviously you're up against it, then, aren't you?
But if you wanted to win a drinking game, we'd have been Premier League.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's some great parties. I mean, a few of the lads after training they'd regularly go off and go to the pub and stuff like that, and. Yeah, Marsh and Byrne and Jerome Borough were, they were great value, great characters, but maybe not the most dedicated professionals at that point in their careers.
I mean, I did once hear a rumour that Ronnie was given a tap in the Rootsall car park on a Saturday morning where him and Bernie and maybe Marsh ended up sleeping in the car overnight. Did you ever hear that one?
No, I didn't. I didn't hear that. No, I can't confirm that one.
But wouldn't be surprised.
No, it was, the culture was a little bit wild, I suppose. It was just, after and coach trips on the way home as well. There'd be a lot of booze sunk. It wasn't as if we were winning that often away from home either, but
we're gonna lose on the booze.
Yeah, well, kind of, and that was but that was the way it was back then. It was a different time.
Yeah,
we weren't the only club doing that for sure.
No.
I think that was commonplace.
Yeah,
but I remember a few of the lads rolling off the coach, on the back of long coach journeys. But you wouldn't see it these days. But that wasn't that abnormal back then.
Okay, so that was the 96-97 season. We ended up getting relegated from the second tier after 6 years of being at that level. You went back to the marble halls of Highbury. I believe, would Mr. Wenger have been your manager at the time then?
At the time, yeah, he was.
And what would, obviously, like you've just said, Wenger is often lauded for changing the culture in English football, getting away from maybe the Southend culture of bacon sarnies and pints of Guinness.
Yeah,
and Arsenal had a big drinking club, didn't they? Before Mr. Wenger arrived, and so obviously at Arsenal with Mr. Wenger, it was more of a pasta and vitamin drinks background.
Yeah.
But who was it? Was it George Graham that gave you your debut before this?
Yeah, so look, it was a long old process.
Arsenal debut?
Yeah, I played in 94, 95 once for George Graham against QPR. Then the next season, then I went on the tour, post-season tour of China and Hong Kong. And then the next season, I was in the squad for pretty much the whole season, 95, 96. And it was fantastic. This was pre-Southend, and it was fantastic. Loved it. I think nine first team appearances, and it was all good.
With Bruce Rioch, Clarkey?
That was Bruce Rioch.
So you must have gotten well with Bruce, another Scotsman after George.
I got on all right with him, yeah. Like George Graham, it was always a bit aloof. Never quite sure he knew even my name. He was one of those, you'd been there, 10 years, but you were never quite sure where you stood with him. But Bruce was, he liked me. He took a bit of a shine to me, I guess, and then gave me lots of game time, and it was brilliant. But then. Yeah, the next he left in the summer, and Arsene Wenger trimmed down the squad, and so the training ground had burnt down, the changing room, so it was all split up. So he kind of picked 16 or 18 that first teamers, and they'd get changed at this local hotel, and the rest of us would be at Colney and Port Cabins. So I was basically back in the reserves, which is why I ended up going on loan to Southend towards the end of that season. So
you didn't really build up a relationship with Mr. Wenger?
Not really. No, I trained the first 10 sessions or so. We were all together in a big group, and it was fantastic. And then he kind of split it off, and also it wasn't them and us really in a way, because all the vitamins that you spoke about, the creatine, the diet, the special diets, etc. They were all for the chosen few, and the rest of us just sort of had to crack on. So it was quite a demoralizing time. So I was really buzzing to go to Southend on loan.
Yeah.
Like it was
time.
Yeah, I did know it was time. And then at the end of my loan spell, I think I'd done okay individually. The team, like you said, we hadn't won many, but I'd done all right in flashes. And Ronnie wanted to sign me permanently. But Arsenal were asking for a fee at the time. and that was putting Southend off. Obviously, they never really had that much money, and other teams as well. And then he basically just said, "Look, you're end of your contract. We'll waive a fee. I know that Southend want you. I think there's a few other clubs interested. You know, go out there and play." And that was it. You know, it was a 10-minute conversation at the end of. I'd been there 12 years. So, you know, it was quite heartbreaking, really. But it was the right thing for my career. But yeah, Wigan offered me a contract. Cambridge were sort of badgering, and Ipswich asked me to go on trial. Really, because I was an Ipswich fan as a kid, and George Burley got in touch and said, "Come up and see us," and I was quite excited. And then he said, "Look, my chief scout loves you. One of my other scouts not so sure, and I haven't seen enough of you, so I can't offer you a contract right now. But why don't you come and train with us for a week or two, and we'll take it from there." But Southend offered me a contract, you know, and it was getting towards the season, and I took it basically, and I took it when we had no manager, which is probably the daftest thing you could ever do. But
it's all a learning curve, Clarkey.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a little bit of a panic. No, but because I was thinking, well, what if it doesn't work out at Ipswich? Where's that leave me? The season would have started.
You wanted the contract. You wanted that stability. You wanted that stability, didn't you?
Exactly. And I didn't really fancy Wigan. And yeah, Southend I knew, and I knew the lads. And yeah, they'd offered me a contract before Ronnie quit. And they got in touch to say, look, nothing's changed. We still want you, but obviously we haven't appointed anyone. So I just did it anyway. I just took a chance, and then obviously they recruited Alvin Martin just a few days later.
Yeah, just before we finally leave Arsenal, obviously when you was there, we talk about the chosen ones that Mr. Wenger split away from the rest of you. I mean, unbelievable players there then, wasn't there? You've got Dennis Bergkamp, Tony Adams, Ian Wright, David Platt, Paul Merson, Ray Parler, David Seaman. You know, it's like a who's who of the top players, isn't it? Did you actually get to, I mean, as a winger yourself and an attacking player, it must have been a joy to watch a master of his craft like Bergkamp. Was there any, what was he like? Was there anyone there you particularly built up a relationship with the famous players?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, look, I was there for years. You know, I was a pro for 4 or 5 years there. So yeah, even though I wasn't always playing in the first team, you were training regularly. I was part of that group, and it's just amazing. You take it for granted when you're there. You think it's going to last forever, and unfortunately, these things don't unless you're, you know, a bit special. And I got on great with all of them. Obviously, playing with Bergkamp was a privilege. He was just mind-blowingly good.
One of the greatest ever.
Yeah, as a winger. He just would put the ball in your path, just how you wanted it, give you the right service, and make great runs as well. Ian Wright was obviously a joy. He was very good with younger players. Took me under his wing a little bit. We got on fantastically.
Plenty of banter.
Loads of banter, yeah. He nicknamed me the Rev, which I hated.
Why was that? Why? Because of your speed?
No.
Or because you were quite holy?
Reverend, yeah.
Well, why was that? Why did he call you the Rev?
Because I wasn't part of that drinking culture. I wasn't swearing. I wasn't a womanizer. You know, I was quite, you know, I was a boy from Suffolk. You know, I was a little bit, not quiet, but I was a bit of a goody. I suppose I did A-levels in my spare time. So I was seen as a bit of a goody two-shoes, I guess. So yeah, he called me the Rev. And it stuck, and I absolutely hated it. Still, if I bumped into Wright now, and I have bumped into him quite a bit down the years, obviously working in the media, every time it's Rev, how are you, mate? Blah, blah, blah.
That's nice, isn't it? I bet you must like it now. It's an affectionate term, isn't it?
Exactly. So they were all good. You know, Adams and playing with Dixon and Winterburn behind me, amazing. So very good times, and just wish I could have stayed there a bit longer, but. It was time. I did well in the first team. I certainly wasn't out of place. Didn't have bad games, but I just wasn't quite good enough to make the difference on a consistent basis. Good in flashes, but I didn't get my goal. I didn't, you know, sort of impact enough games, I suppose. And then, so it's just on the periphery. And Wenger, the bottom line is he improved standards. He raised them massively. I played in Patrick Vieira's first ever match for Arsenal in the reserves, and he was head and shoulders above the rest of us. It was like, well, he's not going to play for the reserves again. That's, you know, and he was a year or two younger than me. I played in Nicholas Anelka's first match in the reserves. He came off the bench at half time, and none of us knew his name. He didn't say anything. Who's this kid? And he was just the fastest player I'd ever seen. And you just thought, well, wow. these are the players that he's bringing in, I might be toast. It might be that I'm not quite good enough to stay, and that's ultimately what happened. They got rid of me and signed Mark Overmars, who was pretty much the premier left winger in the world at that time. So it was like, I can't argue with that.
Fair enough. He wasn't a bad judge then, Arsene Wenger, was he? Okay. so obviously, Southend are in the third tier now. When you've signed permanently, Alvin has been installed as boss. Obviously, after you signed, you've swapped Tony Adams, David Platt, and Dennis Bergkamp for Keith Dublin, Phil Gridlett, and Andy Rammell. You've swapped Highbury for Rootsall and that iconic JVC Arsenal shirt for the most horrendous football kit ever designed, the custard splat. Good choice, Clarkey.
Loved it.
But to be fair, and again, it was another really hard season, obviously, which has ended in a second successive relegation. But for yourself, it was quite a good season for you. You did quite well, didn't you? I mean, you got 5 goals, I think, when I was looking. We never actually lost a game when you scored. Some good games. We beat Brentford 3-1 when you scored. We beat Bournemouth 5-3 when you scored. But the game that really always sticks out for me, I think it was a Friday night from memory, was that 4-4 against York City.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? What do you remember that under the floodlights? A great game.
It. Yeah, not many people were there. I think it was a small crowd, but
you got 2 and Dubbers got 2.
Yeah, it was a great game. Stuck one. Jerome Boer played me in down the left. I sort of cut inside, dribbled past a couple, bent one in the corner, top corner, and then there was another goal where I ran through and then curled it in the other corner, and then I set up, I think, 2 set piece deliveries for Keith Dublin to score.
They were your corners, right? Were they your corners?
Yeah, they were my corners.
I thought they were, yeah.
Yeah, so 2 goals, 2 assists, and then the one that really stands out is my first goal against Brentford. I've seen it because there is on YouTube a compilation of all the goals from all the matches in 97, 98. So if anyone listening hasn't seen that, just search it. It exists. And I watched it one day and it just brought me right back. And the Brentford goal, I mean, it's one of the best goals I've ever scored, full stop, to be honest. It was.
Talk us through it.
Well, I think it was was it Phil Gridley or Mike Marsh? One of the two slipped me into the box, and then I sort of dropped a shoulder and chopped the ball back one touch, but the defender went sliding past me, so it made me look better. So I've sort of done him, and then I just bent it into the far top corner. It was a real peach, and then that was my first ever league goal, and I just loved it. And in that season, I think I played over 50 games in all competitions. I was a regular.
A big step up from playing reserves and the odd few games at Arsenal. It's a big difference, isn't it?
I absolutely loved it, and it was really frustrating actually, because I think if I'd have had the same performances, if I'd have played for a more successful team, I'd have probably got 12 goals. But because it's a different scenario when you're operating near the bottom. But on a performance level note, I think it would have gone down as a really strong season for me had we finished, up the table. But because you're in a team that's really struggled, it kind of gets washed away and forgotten a little bit. The bottom line, Bernie, is I should have left because I knew that teams wanted me off the back of that season.
Where could you have gone?
Well, there was a guy, I ended up going on loan to Carlisle, and the guy that worked there worked for Bristol City, and he said that we were watching you closely and we were very close to sort of coming in for you. And there's a bit of interest, but I should have probably just said to the club, that I'm out. I want to move on, but I didn't. And then you get off to an indifferent start the next season, and things can spiral out of control, and that's what happened. So, that's quite a big regret, really, that I didn't sort of ask to leave. But it wasn't really my nature.
Because you're a nice guy, aren't you? Let's be honest. Some footballers can be quite cutthroat, quite mercenary. But like you just said about Arsenal, you weren't on the booze, you weren't out chasing women. You were quite a settled, grounded guy, and a nice. I'm not saying that.
You're probably
you were a really nice guy, a nice guy.
Too much though, but too much so. In general, really, when I look back at my career, Arsenal always used to say it, demand the ball, but a bit nastier, be a bit more selfish. Because I was a very instinctive player. Like, it was all about sort of taking players on, putting crosses in. You were like an old-fashioned
winger, weren't you?
Yeah. So it was about getting the ball, trying to take someone on, whip it across the face of goal or have a shot or whatnot. But as a winger, you are reliant a little bit on service. and obviously the service I was getting at Arsenal was a bit better than I'm getting.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
And you know, you're getting it up around your neck a bit, and you know, obviously the style of football is different as well. Probably didn't suit me massively, but I should have been more selfish. I should have been, more focused on myself really, and in general, I think I probably should have had a better career. You know, I should have worked. I should have done a bit extra at Arsenal. I should have maybe analysed my own performances a little bit more detail. I should have been maybe tougher on myself after you know, a poor performance. I like to sweep it under the carpet and just move on. Maybe I should have looked harder at where I could improve. You know, I didn't really self-analyse that much, which is ironic, really, when considered what I've been doing for donkey's years now in journalism is football analysis. But I didn't really think about football that much when I wasn't at the
I'm
training.
You have to use that old word hindsight again, which comes up a hell of a lot when you do these conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely should have done better. I think for Arsenal and for Southend, I should have scored more goals. No doubt about that. I should have taken more matches by the scruff of the neck because I do think I was capable, but I was probably I was too timid. I was a bit, not one of the louder characters, and sometimes you can get sort of squashed down a little bit, can't you?
I'm getting a nickname now because I feel like I've just had a confession from the Rev. I feel like you've let it all out. Let it go, son.
It's all good.
Let it go.
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, I do wish I'd done a little bit better.
I think we all do in any walk in life, don't we? You know, as we look back. But just in that season again, maybe a player that did give you a little bit more service, someone that I always quite like when I saw him. We seem to have these random foreign players coming into the club this season. And one of the players I liked who showed good glimpses was Regis Cobalt, if I've got that right, who came in from Toulon. What do you remember at Regis? Did you feel? I felt he was quite a good player.
Yeah, he was a good player. Really good.
Like yourself, more technical.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he looked after the ball well. Yeah, he sort of played inside me, and get it, beat someone, and he shift it out to the wings pretty quickly. Yeah, he was. He was a talented player. He scored the odd goal. Really nice boy as well.
Did he speak English?
Yeah. No, he was. He had good English.
Great eyebrows.
Yeah, he did. He did. But he was quite social, and we'd sort of go around there and have a French meal sometimes around his house. It was
really what with the missus.
Yeah, he was quite. He was.
See, and this is what I'm getting. I see that because, like I say, you're more. I don't want to say about stereotypical footballers, but a bit more of an articulate character, a little bit more culture about you, say, Clarkey. So I can see you sitting there having French evenings in your Breton shirts and your berets.
A little bit, a little bit. The my other pals in that team were Nathan Jones, as you know.
Who's gone on to do well, yeah.
Yeah, he'd gone to do brilliantly. Obviously, he's sort of in limbo at the minute, but I mean, I always knew Nathan would be a manager. I actually thought,
but more, I think again, a thinker, more of a brain as well. Yeah,
he loved football. I actually kind of fed off Nathan a little bit in the afternoons. You'd go into Southend and have a bit of lunch and talk about football a bit more. And he was quite infectious, and he just loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I always thought I would be a manager and he would be my coach. That's how I saw it.
I never saw him being a manager. I mean, it's weird, isn't it, how that can happen? But I know he's had a couple. It's not gone so well with him when he's left Luton and gone to other clubs.
He's just talked too much. He's
done brilliantly, isn't he? At Luton, he's done an amazing job.
Fantastic coach. Yeah. His reputation in football is amazing. I heard years and years ago how highly rated he was at a coach. I think when he did his bad years, everyone was a little bit blown away by him, and he's got this enthusiasm. And I'm so happy for him. I bumped into him recently at a game at Emirates. He was doing some stuff for the radio, and I was doing stuff for Arsenal, and we had a little catch up, which was nice. But he was really good. I thought I knew he'd be a coach because he was so enthusiastic about training and all aspects of sessions, but I didn't know whether he would have the man management skills, because he could rub people up the wrong way. He could be a bit direct, and I didn't know whether he'd be able to sort of take a step back. But he has. So
he's a massive part of the Luton success story now, isn't he? Getting from the conference back up to the Premier League where they are now, a massive part of that.
Luton town legend, no doubt about it.
Without doubt it.
Yeah. So and I got on great with Martin Margetson. as well. Well, there's a few.
He was a good lad,
Mel Caperton was like the nicest guy in the world. Andy Harris was a lovely guy. Got on brilliantly with him. I mean, all of Julian Hales was a great person.
Yeah, Halsey, another thinking man. I think he's a maths teacher now. So Halsey's a great guy. Yeah, great guy. Great guy. Great guy.
And Martin Margetson was kind of my neighbour, and socialised a lot with Martin. And obviously, he's gone on
England coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean,
a lovely fella, really lovely fella, really
England's
lovely fella.
goalie coach. Yeah, I mean, he was at Wales before. So yeah, I met some amazing people, some really good lads. It's just a pity that we never really had a successful team for various reasons. You know, I bumped into Alvin actually. Adrian Durham at TalkSport had some drinks last season. I think he'd won some award, and he just wanted to sort of say thanks to all the sort of colleagues at TalkSport. So we had a drinks night, and Alvin was there, and I ended up. His 3 boys came.
All right, okay.
3 boys, 2 boys, and it was fantastic. And I ended up having about an hour-long chat and a reminisce with him. It was amazing.
Alvin was a lovely fella. I mean, we had Kev on here, I said to Kev, you know, there's always been a thing about the Southend fans never took to Alvin because of the West Ham connection. But for me, working with him one-on-one, obviously as the Blues reporter at the time for the Echo, I could see how hard he worked. I said the same to Kevin Mayer, and how passionate he was. He didn't need to do it. He'd had a good career. And I had a lot of time for Alvin, and I always felt really sorry for him. You like yourself, you know, wrong place, wrong time. Yeah, didn't go well, even though you know you gave your all.
It was his first managerial job, and he inherited a tough dressing room.
Well, it was a bum zone, wasn't it? It was a bum zone.
Yeah, he inherited a group of players on big money that didn't really act in a professional manner.
No,
great lads.
It was an impossible job, wasn't it?
It was a really really hard job. Yeah, and I think he had to sort of change that culture, or try to, but it was a really difficult task for him. And you know, he knows he made a few mistakes along the way as well, whatnot. What I always thought with Alvin was that if we had he'd sort of big you up a little bit. So, say for me personally, he might praise me up and say to you for the paper, oh, you know, Clarkey, he's going to go on to bigger and better things. He
never said that once.
And that, yeah, whatever. But then, maybe it's just him. Maybe I just made it up. But then 4 weeks later, I'd be dropped. You know, I'd be on the bench because I've had a quiet game. So, and I think he was a little bit like that with results. So if we had results fluctuated, next thing you knew, we get 2 new players in on loan, and then you know if things would go right, and then we lost a couple of games again. And it'd be like someone else comes in. He sort of was quite reactive, I think, in the transfer market, and not always sort of picking players that helped, that improved us. But a great person, and he did his level best. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he did. He really did.
Yeah.
But let me just ask about 2 players you said he brought in that season. One who, again, like Ronnie Whelan, was always so bizarre to me that the people that can roll up at Rootsall, Neville Southall. Now, Everton legend, in a great Everton team, and obviously he lived up to the cliche, made himself look big in goal, didn't he? Between the sticks. What was Neville Southall like? I mean, he's again another legend of football.
Yeah, there's only one Neville Southall, that is for sure. Just completely unique character. He was a bit grumpy, to be honest. The thing that I remember, and I know it's not the kindest thing to say, because I think he is a good guy. I mean, he does a lot of good things now outside of football for charity and whatnot. He's got a good heart. But the one thing I remember, I don't know where he lived at the time, but he just always shut off straight after training. Didn't have a shower.
Welsh. I'm only joking.
you can't say that. But yeah, he never had a shower, so he's just like, everyone was sort of took the mickey behind his back, I suppose, about being a bit stinky or whatever. But
but he was a brilliant.
He was a brilliant goal, because he one of my first team games for Arsenal was against Everton a couple of years before, and honestly. It could have been the making of me, because I got the ball off a throw, I turned my man, took it past someone, and I think it was a 30-yarder, and it was going right in the top corner at Highbury, and he's pulled off an absolute worldie.
He was world class, wasn't he? He was
tipped it over, and I was like, oh, like that if that had gone in, I would definitely have got more games.
In dividing lines.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, I remember his first game it was a Boxing Day or Christmas game at Brentford at Griffin Park. It was his first game. I don't know if he played that day. Another French guy, Pepe, got sent off.
Yeah.
And I always remember at Griffin Park, as the away fans, you could stand right behind the goal. So Neville Southall was in front of us. And one of their guys had an unbelievable point-blank rage overhead kick. Yeah. And he saved it. Yeah. Again, like pulled off an absolute world. And I remember he turned around to us behind the goal and he just winked at us and smiled. And you love, as a fan, you love things. He was so nonchalant about it.
Yeah. Oh, he was so brilliant. But the issue with Nev coming in was that he replaced Royce.
Yeah.
And Royce didn't need replacing.
No. But back to what you were just saying about Alvin and bringing people in and stuff. And I don't think Neville was ever on the winning side for us either, to be fair.
Simon Royce was one of our best players. He was one of the biggest assets to the team. There shouldn't have been any doubt about who was in goal.
No,
he was one of the best in the league.
Yeah, so and he went on to show that after he left the club as well, didn't he? So he was a great goalkeeper.
So, it was a sort of a low move that needn't have happened really. Yeah. But we all we got to play with Neville Southall, which is quite cool.
Another player that Alvin brought in that year, Kevin Mayer.
Yes, yeah.
Obviously, talk to me about Kevin Mayer, a teammate, and what Kevin Mayer's doing now, the amazing job he's doing now.
Yeah, he's got just a great lad. I played with his brother Sunday League football in East London, which was sort of half knew him already. And he was just really quiet off the pitch when he was first at the club, but just immaculate, really. I think you used to hammer him, to be fair, with your match reports. I never
hammered him. We had this conversation. Constructive criticism. I used to always praise him as well because he was a good player and it was a hard job coming into Phil Marsh's boots.
Yeah.
And as I've told this story many times, and it turned around for him one night at York, and I give him man of the match.
Okay.
And as you know, it's like with you attention-seeking footballers. As soon as you get a 9 in the Echo, a man of the match, then you love the reporter, and from then on, it was all fine.
This is true. Look, when you give us a 7 or an 8 or whatever, it made you feel good. I can't lie, Bernie. That's the power you.
How many 5s?
Oh yeah, of course I got 5s. And then if you give me a 5, your heart sinks a little bit.
Of course it does. Yeah.
You think players wouldn't care, but they do. That's the bottom line. And I remember, I think he got a little bit. Not paranoid, but he got a little bit annoyed by it because I think he was accused by you, but by other people of just playing it too safe, a lot of sideways and backward passes and whatnot. But he grew into himself definitely, and
without doubt,
what a player he became.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember. I mean, he was very good when I was there. Unfortunately, when he sort of came into the team, that was when I found myself a little bit more sidelined, I guess. So I didn't actually play with him hundreds of times or anything. But yeah, always really liked him, and just a real quality midfield player. Just gets it, gives it, made sensible decisions all the time. I think I played for Stevenage against Southend in what is it? Would it be the EFL Trophy? I think that's what what is the Papa John's now or was. Non-league teams were in it during that time.
Yes.
The top 6 or top 8 from non-league went in it, and I played against Southend, and I remember Kev Mayer ran the show. He was head and shoulders. He was
great. I mean, I think when I spoke to Kev when he came on the show, I said to him, ironically, despite all the things he achieved at Blues as a player and all the games he played, his best season ever was probably in the Championship for that season because it suited him as a player because of how good he was technically.
Yeah,
which I used to always say, despite you thinking I was digging him out all the time. But also, and I think we've said it again on here a lot of times before, you watch the way Southend play now, the National League Barcelona, the way they play that high tempo passing game, but also will get their foot in when required. They're a mirror image of their manager, aren't they?
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's interesting.
And humble like their manager as well. No, but he's a humble guy and humble like Kev as well. I think
that's good.
Kev's a very humble guy.
Oh, it's no ego on Kev. Yeah. Kev's very grounded. Comes from a good family, and I'm so happy that the club sort of stuck with him, and that he stuck with them through all the bad times. And now that he's getting the plaudits that he deserves. So yeah, he's got the makings of being a really good manager for the club. Total Southend legend, really, isn't he? Because he did it as a player. And look, if he can get Southend into the playoffs this season, and despite this points deduction, What an achievement that would be.
Unbelievable. And at the moment, you wouldn't count it out the way they're going at the moment.
You wouldn't count it out. Unfortunately, I haven't seen this team in the flesh yet, but
very easy on the eye, Clarkey. You need to have a look. Very easy on the eye. Unbelievable football for the level they're at. Unbelievable football.
Excellent. Well, really that's good to hear. And well, he's a he wanted to play the ball on the floor. Good. He was such a good passer, and it's obviously rubbing off, isn't it?
Absolutely. Anyway, we went down again that season, back in the bottom tier. You left at the end of that season. We don't need to go into that one too much. So you left the club. Well, I think just shy of 100 games. I mean, what happened there? Because obviously you still had Alvin. There was a change in the regime then in '98, because this is when John Mayne come in with Ron Martin in the background. Obviously Alvin went under John Mayne's stewardship, and in come Alan Little, an ex-Southend player, a very different character. Was that one of the reasons why you went at the end of the season?
Yeah, well, I didn't go at the end of that season. I went at the end of the next season. So, you just never saw me.
Oh, sorry, so, I thought I didn't. Yeah, sorry, it was the one afterwards, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So, I played the first half of the season, I'd say, in League Two, and I had some good games, had some indifferent games. But Alvin was under pressure, and I think he signed Scott Houghton, who was a player in my position.
Yeah.
So that was under a bit more pressure. Scott Houghton was a good player, so a bit more. My heart, but it wasn't easy to get starts, and then I kind of faded more and more out of it, really, which was frustrating just before he left, and then. But Alan Little was just not good for me at all. It was a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. So he, I think, was charged with the task of bringing the wage bill down and whatnot. He got rid of a lot of good players, but high earning players. Brought in a lot of players from up north that he knew, who weren't as good. That's the bottom line. Or it wasn't as if they weren't as good. Their heart wasn't in it.
No,
but their heart wasn't in Southend. They came for the manager, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't have any allegiance to the area, and they didn't. They would go home up north, and after the games, and it was like two teams within a team. You had the originals, and then you had the players that Alan Little brought in, and he brought in a lot of players, and there was a little bit.
At least you had the consolation that when Mr. Webb came in, they were all shipped out quite sharpishly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Alan Little wasn't that nice to me, if truth be told. I think there's a little bit of trying to sort of almost force me out. I did a lot of running after games.
And making it just awkward for you not wanting to be there. What made you not wanting to be there for you?
Because I trained hard, and I really, really I tried to be as professional as I could. Because by this point, I was getting fed up. And I did that podcast or the live stream the other day with Chris Phillips, talking about mental health. Actually,
doing great things for
them. Amazing! Yeah, well done to Chris on that.
Yeah,
but we brought up in the conversation about that, and I was fine, but it wasn't good for my mental health, because you'd go into train every day. In my mind, I was training better than most of the players most days, and yet when it got to Friday, I wasn't in the squad. And so you can't do the job that you're being paid to do.
No.
And it makes you feel a bit worthless.
And mucks your head up.
Totally mucks your head up. And I didn't get depression or anything like that, thankfully. But it was one of those situations where you really do have to dig deep to sort of be resilient, to try not to let it spoil your life. But it kind of did, because you're miserable at home.
Yeah, it's very tough, very tough.
Yeah, exactly. So I hated that year. I went on loan to Carlisle. Didn't really enjoy it there. Manager kind of stepped down halfway through that loan spell, so that was not ideal. And then I come back, and it was the same old story. And it was just a matter of counting down to the end. And I'd lost my love of football, if I'm honest. I started to hate it.
Okay, so it's interesting that you say there about how that experience with Alan Little made you fall out of love with football, because you went on to have a second career. I mean, you obviously carried on playing. You held the distinction, kind of call it, of playing in the top 6 tiers of English football, because after leaving Blues, you played for Stevenage. You said about the loan spell at Carlisle, and obviously played for Margate, Welling, and Hendon, I believe, all the way down to Conference South.
Yeah.
But you you got in contact with the local reporter to get some work experience on the Echo, didn't you? Another career after football. What happened there, Clarkey?
Yeah, well, during that season, the one good thing to come out of that bad season was that Alan Little kind of almost tried to. It made me go to a lot of the games, so the away games, almost to annoy me. I think,
he was just trying to force you out, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was I'd travel, but not be even on the bench. But what I'd get to do is do the radio. So I'd go and sit with.
You'd help them BBC Essex, yeah.
Sit the guys, yeah. And I got a taste for that, and I started to enjoy the commentating on the games more than actually playing. So that gave me a taste for that. And at the end of the season, so Steve, it's a long, boring story, but it got, despite a bit of interest from various teams, I decided I need to sign for someone here, and I think I'm fed up with football. Let's go and play part-time football and build a career. But basically, that's what I was thinking. So I signed for Stevenage, who were really, really persistent, and Paul Fairclough sold it to me, and I loved playing for Paul Fairclough. I had some great times at Stevenage.
Yeah, and he was an absolute legendary manager down there, wasn't he? And did he do the England C teams as well?
Yeah, he's been doing it for years. I don't know if he might even still be in charge of them. I'm not sure, but he was great. And I sort of scored more goals for Stevenage. Probably came into my peak. So at this point, I was only sort of 26.
Probably a release for you as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was like 26, 27, 28. And I was having a great time in the National League, top end, playing for a successful team, top end of the National League, but I needed a job. And yours truly, you interviewed me, and I remember this. You interviewed me and said, well, Stevenage are part-time, mate. What are you going to do for a job? I said, well, I need to get one. What do you want to do? I said, well, I like doing what you're doing, Bernie. I'd love to be a journalist. I'd like to write about football, talk about football, and you and I owe you a lot of drinks for this.
I'm still waiting for me 10%.
Exactly. I know. I'm a bad friend. What can I say? But you basically said, "Oh, mate, I'll put in a word for you at the Echo. See if we can get you some work experience." And you did, and
which I said as well, and I didn't want it to sound condescending, like a grown man coming in for work experience. You know what I mean? It was meant in the right way, obviously.
No, exactly. Yeah. And you were as good as you were, and you actually did. And you said, "Mate, you can come in," and I was like, "You serious?" So we did it, didn't we? And I was on the sports desk for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Can't remember how long.
And I think you've built up a really good rapport with, so sadly missed Dick Marshall, who was such a great ambassador of local football, local sport, local school sports on the Echo. Just a totally all-round great guy. Sadly passed away, and you two built up a good rapport, didn't you?
Yeah, got great. Exactly. Showed me the ropes, and the whole team were lovely, and I loved it. Loved working with Dick, and didn't cover Southend really. It was just doing bits and pieces, wasn't it?
It was. You were learning the ropes, cutting your teeth, weren't you?
But what happened was, I think you guys on Sport had said, you went to the editor and said, look, Clarkey's pretty good. He's as good as the graduates that we're getting. So you basically put in a good word for me to have a traineeship. And he said, yeah, whatever, let's stick him on news. And then I got transferred out of your sports team and onto the news desk in Southend. So I got moved out of Basildon into Southend and into the Lions Den. And But they, after I think another month or two of free work experience, they offered me that trainee reporter role, and I did it for almost a year.
Which was the thing I knew is it was going to be crap money.
Yeah. Look,
it's the learning. It is the learning curve, and I believe, because it's what I did when I started out. I always wanted to be a sports journalist. I worked for the Yellow Advertiser, which is obviously like budgie cage fodder for 6 years, writing news, Castle Point and Rochford, because I wanted to write the Blues reports. So that's the way I did it before I got the job on the Echo. And I believe that you need to be an all-round journalist, you need to have that grounded on news, which is what you did as well, because I think it really helps you, because when you go into sport, because you've got that nose for hard news as well as the sports news.
Definitely learning about the angles, keeping things tight, and just being outside of your comfort zone, I think is so important. And they sent me on some horrible jobs.
Anything stick out?
No. Well, when something bad happens, you have to report on it, and you have to speak to family members. It's awful. The one that really stands out is quite funny. So I was the Canvey Island correspondent, wasn't I? And that was my patch, and there was an incident at the King's nightclub, and who is it that owned the King's nightclub? The
Jeff
older
King, the old county manager.
Jeff. No, was it his dad or older brother?
It was the family. It was a family thing anyway, wasn't it? They were all involved in it.
It was one of them. It was one of the older ones. I didn't speak to Jeff personally at the time, and well, for the story I didn't, and so I wrote the story. It was a front page splash. It was a stabbing at the nightclub, and not a fatal one, thankfully, but it was a major incident, and I got a phone call from Jeff King, who was the county manager at the time.
Yeah,
effing and blinding and telling me it wasn't in our club. It wasn't at our club. Blah blah blah. You got it wrong. You know, this is basically because it's bad reputationally, isn't it, for them? And I said, look, all my sources tell me it was on the premises. I'm confident. I'm not backing down, and which is tough to do. I used to be a footballer a few months earlier, and this is not an easy situation. But yeah, it was pretty aggressive with me. And then who do we draw in the cup?
Oh, I knew you was going to say that.
Stevenage v Canvey Island, because they were a good team, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I was dreading it because it was only a few weeks later, and I just didn't make eye contact with him. I kept my distance. But look, there was never any comeback because I knew the story was right. But there was a little bit of aggression, shall we say? And previously, because I'd done a couple of more fluff pieces around what had happened with the King's family and their empire, sort of in Canvey. They loved me, and the dad was really nice to me. But it all stopped there and then after that story. And I made sure that I sort of never really went back to Canvey again. But it was a great experience, and Paul Fairclough it was who found out about a job in London, sort of with football related, that was available, and that's the only reason I left. I would have stayed for longer, but it was an opportunity.
But that's the natural progression, isn't it? You learnt your trade there, your second trade, didn't you? And obviously, as you say, you've just gone on to another job that Mr. Fairclough's tipped you off about. Yeah. But also, you obviously had contacts from your time at Arsenal. If you like, going full circle with your career. So obviously you had an in there already, and obviously you have been quite involved with Arsenal over the years, haven't you?
Yeah. So I did various sort of minor. I just built up experience there at a place called Icons. We did websites for footballers, and but then we ended up doing features for magazines and other websites. So I learned my trade over a long period of time. But yeah, so Arsenal in about, I don't know when it was probably 2007, 2008, they got in touch and said, we hear that you've become a journalist, we've seen some of your stuff, would you be interested in getting involved with us and maybe doing some co-commentaries and whatnot? And I did. And just over the years I've done an awful lot of work for Arsenal, sort of analysis wise. I did a feature for them for 11, 12 years called The Breakdown, and now I've been on their match day show for donkey's years. I've sort of as the main pundit, I guess. I've also been a presenter there. So yesterday I interviewed Leandro Trossard. So I went to the training ground and did a feature with him. So so it was amazing to go.
Do you still
back
feel at home when you go there? When you go there, do you still feel at home? Is there still that
it's
feeling?
Completely different. Obviously, they're all different people, but you're part of that Arsenal family. The same as when I come back to Southend, to be honest. The Southend ex-players association got in touch a couple of years ago, actually, and then it was sort of put on hold, inviting me back to a game as their guest, which is amazing.
Yeah, they do a great job.
I went back last season, and it was just glorious. I had a meal and then I got to go on the pitch, and I thought no one's going to take any notice. It's going to be a bit embarrassing, but you could see all around the ground, everyone was sort of clapping and made me feel really welcome. I couldn't believe it. It was really, we
all like to feel loved, Clarkey, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. I was absolutely buzzing.
That's lovely, though. It's lovely to hear that. It's really nice to hear.
Yeah, really, really buzzing. And it's a great thing that the Ex-Players Association do there.
Amazing work.
Bringing the guys back. But Southend's always been, even though it ended unhappily. So I had 1.5 good years and 1.5 not so good years, but I got such good memories and
that's good to hear.
Just good times. And it was my relationship with the supporters. The supporters was always on my side. even when I was out of the team, they were very much on my side, telling the manager that I should be playing, which was always nice. Even though I think it maybe backfired. I think Alan Little was stubborn and would just, the more people were shouting for me to play, the less chance it would happen. But yeah, I just always remember having a good rapport with the supporters.
But that's great that you feel like that, because it was a really terrible time when you was there. You'd pick, apart from now, you picked one of the worst times to go there, and it was doom and gloom pretty much the whole time you were there, despite there being some great boys. And obviously, you have gone on to build this second career, which is brilliant as well. Obviously, working in media like myself, do you feel, how do you feel the national media? Obviously, I'm at the Daily Mirror, you're doing what you do. And I know it took me a long time to get anyone involved at my paper to do something on what was happening at Southend recently. How do you feel the national media react or don't react when they see clubs like Southend in the trouble they're in? Do you think they should be doing more to highlight it and help?
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? To do more. I've been on various podcasts. I've been doing EFL podcasts, and we would always be talking about the sort of crisis clubs and trying to bang the drum about the poor ownership and how detrimental it can be, and that certain clubs just need help. I mean, it's not the media's responsibility, is it? Really, it's not their responsibility to try and help save football clubs. But yeah, they could maybe do a little bit more. I know that TalkSport got Ron Martin on a few times. Jim White is very good at highlighting these issues, and he gave him a pretty hard time on numerous occasions. But it was embarrassing for Ron Martin. He made himself sound pretty foolish, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know. Is the bottom line? I don't know.
I think it's just sometimes. I mean, I know from my paper, from years ago, where we'd run lots of stuff on League 1 and 2, which is now like about 3 paragraphs on a Sunday or a Monday. It's all Championship and Premier League. Yeah. And and mostly it's just Premier League on most national media. So I think there's a little bit of that. Well, there is more to football than that. Football didn't start with the Premier League. Yeah,
there's so little space in newspapers.
Yeah,
there's more room now online. The Athletic have done features, haven't they? Obviously, one of the journalists, I think, is a Southend fan.
Yes, Matt Slater.
Matt Slater. Yeah. So they'll do what they can to highlight the issues, but the bottom line and to put pressure on people like Ron Martin to do the right thing. But yeah, I do understand the frustration of the fans, the supporters. They need that voice. They need it to be. They need their plight to be highlighted, so that someone else could, so that more people know about it, and then someone else can come out there and hopefully save them.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It maybe alert someone to what is going on. It's someone that might want to get involved with a football club. Exactly. And I think, to be fair, the national press did do well by the club in the end. Yeah. But I think it's just always that feeling that they get there very late to the party, just when the soil's been, just before the soil's going to be thrown on the coffin,
Yeah, and the bottom line, the truth is, it's a huge story in Southend and in Essex, but in the in the wider world. Yeah, the bottom line is that there's not as much interest in stories like that. There just isn't. No one wants to see football clubs go to the wall, but it's happened, and it's happening a bit more frequently now. So it's almost becoming normalised.
Yeah.
The fact that these great institutions just go and disappear. Look at Bury.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just massively relieved that finally there's sort of some kind of resolution, and that era is now ending, and that the club can move forward. Because I can't get my head around Southend not being in the league. First and foremost, I just can't. It breaks my heart that they're not in the EFL, let alone struggling in the National League. On the brink of extinction.
Yeah,
it's just crazy, but it feels like there might be a way back now, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like there's hope. I mean, obviously, it isn't agreed yet. It's agreed, sorry. It hasn't gone through yet. So let's hope there's not any other twists and turns on the way to that completion. But back to what you've said, I mean, thinking of Southend has been a National League club, which, it is very hard. But obviously, it's been a while now, so it has sunk in. But when you look at the fact they're still getting 6,500 down there, where they've been this season, when, like the other night, Oxford City, they brought 35. So it's mainly all home fans, and that and there'll be more there once Ron's gone, because some people are staying away, rightly or wrongly, and if it's successful, it can, the fan base now is bigger than sometimes them 6 years we had in the Championship the first time around.
Yeah, I agree. Which
is maybe the silver lining that come out of this.
Yeah, that it's brought the city. It's not town anymore. The city together.
Yeah.
It's like, let's support our local club, and yeah, it does feel like that. And one thing we haven't mentioned, I spent many years doing the BBC Essex, doing the commentaries, alongside Glenn Speller and Nick Alliker, the best people. Just love them, and I just loved that time. This was when I was making my way as a sort of football broadcaster.
Nick Alliker, lovely fella. Yeah, many a time he's driven me to matches and back. Well, I've tried pretending I wasn't asleep with one eye while he was driving down the motorway at night.
when he's not on holiday. I mean, he loves to take a 3-month holiday these days. But good on him. So I got to see some good times as well. I got to see the promotion from League 2 to League 1. The that playoff final at Wembley. I was there at Wembley commentating on it. Amazing, the shootout and. Oh yeah, the shootout. He went to a shootout. Obviously, it was a late equaliser, wasn't it? And went to the shootout, and there was a cup final in there as well. So
yeah, it must have been great for you to be part of those good times off the pitch, even though you didn't necessarily get them on the pitch. That must have been lovely. It must have been lovely to see that flip side of it.
Yeah, because look, I'm a Southend fan. The bottom line is, I want them to win. I do care about it. So yeah, to be part of it and to go to most of the home games for, I don't know, 3 or 4 seasons. It started off with Sturrock and then it was Phil Brown. And Phil Brown gets a lot of stick, but he progressed the team, no doubt about that. Ultimately, it didn't end well, but he took them forward. And I enjoyed watching some really good players down there as well. Bentley in goal came through at that time. So yeah, it was really good. And I ended up I had my stag do in Southend because, the connection from playing was still there. But also at that time, I was doing the co-commentaries and just felt right.
Where did you have that?
I did a 2-dayer. We did a Friday night. It started with the Barnet game. I worked on it, but all my mates were in the stands just getting on the beers and watching the game. And then we went out. Was it Churchill's? Maybe in the evening, somewhere like that on Friday night. And then Saturday we did a go-karts, and then we did 5-a-side, and then we went out on it again on the Saturday. And I'd love to know if anyone saw me on that night. I sincerely hope.
Well,
no one
please let us know. Please let us know.
Yeah, if there's any listeners that saw me that night,
didn't make it to the pink toothbrush then.
Well, no, I don't think so. I wouldn't know. Is the bottom line? I wouldn't know where I ended up. But what I do know is that they dressed me up as is it the YMCA? So I'd like the full leather gear on.
Nice.
So my
little tash.
My backside was hanging out. I had this big fake tash on, the old chains and all sorts. Going out in Southend like that is brave.
Yes, it is. You didn't want to be sitting there telling the tale, mate. Believe me.
There was a few characters that were looking at me.
Yeah. There's no blue oyster in Southend, Clarkey. Is this the same? And is it the same lady you were with when you signed for the club?
No. Thank goodness, no. No.
Mate, we've all been there. Don't worry about that. Actually, while we're talking about ladies and in the media, do you have much to do with women's football in your job now?
Yeah, I do a little bit. Yeah, I've worked a bit on the Arsenal women's team. We do a lot of coverage on it. I've sort of hosted coverage, done punditry on it. I spoke on a lot of podcasts about women's football. I'm quite into it now. I've got to be honest. I'm going tonight. Going to watch the Lionesses because I live in Leicestershire now. They're at the King Power. So, yeah, I've been to see them a few times. It's brilliant to see. And look, I've got a little girl who's 7, Evie, and she's pretty good. She's really talented.
Is she a winger?
She is a winger. Yeah.
Does she tackle though?
No, of course she can't.
Oh, so she's just like her dad.
Yeah, just like me. But she's right-footed instead of left. Yeah, because she's definitely got no interest in defending, just like me.
Yeah.
And she's really good. And that's great. So that's given me new focus. I think she's it's a long way. She's only 7. She's not saying she's going to be a future Lioness, but she's already got that ambition in her head because she knows she's pretty good at it. And I think she now thinks, I want to do that. And now that you can see it on TV and go and watch these games, it's sold out. She can see the reality of what her ambition is.
Yeah,
girls my age, it didn't exist. It just
your age
just wouldn't have known you could play football, let alone play it on a big stage. It's brilliant.
It's changed massively, and it's so lovely to see. I mean, as what you've just said. I mean, I could, I've been at the Mirror 14 years. 8 years ago, 6 years ago, the women's football, England would get a couple of paragraphs. There'd be nothing on the Women's Super League. Now we run pages and pages on it, page leads. We run match reports on the women's football, and it's so refreshing to see how it has changed.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I did TalkSport, because TalkSport started to get me to do a few reports on my own, which is another sort of step. I've done lots of co-commentary, lots of punditry for them, but I've never been on my own doing the reports. So that's a new skill, almost going back to, the proper journalism. And I did the Villa Man United opening match of the season in the WSL. Got to interview Rachel Daly, I think Ella Toon straight afterwards. So it's all a good experience, and amazing. I think it's fantastic the way it's moved forward.
You've done a lot of different things, Clarkey, haven't you? So I suppose to end this interview, what's your favourite profession, footballer or journalist?
Oh God, that's it. That, do you know what? I don't think anyone's ever asked me that, Bernie. So congratulations. I think I enjoy this more.
I thought you was going to say that.
It sounds crazy, because I love being a footballer, and I loved doing something you're passionate about and that you've dreamt of as a kid, to be out there on the pitch with a big crowd. It's what a buzz. It's just, you can't replicate that buzz. It's amazing. But did I enjoy it at the time as much as I should have done? No. Because there's pressure, and there's so much pressure. There's always someone trying to take your place. There's always a contract to earn. There's so many things going on and you have to live your life, obviously, really carefully. Make a lot of sacrifices. So did I enjoy it? Not as much as people would imagine. I love what I do now. Whether it's writing for the Premier League, going to matches, podcasts, radio, just it's all. None of it feels like work.
But you still get that same buzz, don't you? I mean, I always got that buzz from seeing my name in print. I remember going to work for Sky Sports in the late 90s before I covered Blues, when we started the internet, their internet coverage. And I never got that same buzz. I used to always get that buzz from seeing my name in the Echo. So you're swapping one buzz for another, aren't you?
You are. It's nothing can replicate football when you score a goal in front of a big crowd. Nothing can replicate that. But when you're on a live TV show or a live radio show and that red light goes on, or when they come to you looking for an instant reaction to a goal, and you got to think on your feet.
Well, that adrenaline rush is there.
And you got to think on your feet, be articulate, concise, make sense, just deliver good lines on cue, thinking on your feet. That is an adrenaline rush, because you've just got to go. You got to do it. And but you don't just get that. You have to put in the hard yards. You have to do so much research, so many hours. Absolutely. So that you're confident in the moments that you know exactly what to say. And that's what I've learned over the years. And it is a buzz of sorts. And I just want, for however long it lasts, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, to be honest.
Yeah, but I'd say also you must be a stronger journalist, having gone from the route from the Echo to where you are now. But obviously in sport where you wanted to be, you must be stronger, having lived that life as a footballer, because you've got that insight that a lot of people don't have.
It's an advantage, yeah. It definitely is. There aren't many, former footballers that are doing the sort of stuff I do, in terms of, writing these tactics columns for the Premier League, doing these analysis features and whatnot, and presenting on national radio, which I've done a few times as well. That's the thing. Maybe over time, maybe I'll get more into presenting. That's what I ultimately like to do. But am I getting on a bit? That's the problem, you see.
No, you're not, mate. Don't worry.
It might have to be on radio, but face for radio. But yeah, no, it's a great experience. But yeah, having that football background. But the main thing is now, and this is kind of where I always wanted to get to, is people almost think of me first as a broadcaster or a journalist, secondary as, Andy used to play football.
They didn't even know you were a footballer, did they?
It's not the other way around. Well, no. I think this generation don't. I mean,
it's a compliment in some ways, isn't it?
It's a huge compliment. Yeah, because I've managed to, over a long period of time, get to a level, I suppose, where you become a respected writer or broadcaster in your own right, and it's not just a former footballer. I'm not there. I don't get these jobs because I was a former footballer, because I'm not famous. I'm not Alan Shearer, but so I've had to earn it. But going back to you, you giving me that leg up, that honestly, I can't thank you enough, because that was the leg up I needed. Who knows, if I hadn't have done that, how would I have got into football journalism? How would I have got in? It would have been incredibly hard.
But it's all like all of these things, whether you're in journalism or you're a footballer or whatever, so much of it is about who you know, isn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously you've got to be able to do it once you get there, but getting on with people and who you know.
And taking opportunities. When those sliding doors open, you got to go in there and grab it. You can't think, oh, shall I, shan't I? No, I'll leave it. I'll wait for another one. That moment may never come again. So you've got to grab opportunities when they come your way. And yeah, it's worked out all right, but it's hard work. It's a lot of hours,
long hours,
for not that much money, to be honest. But I love it, and I wouldn't want to do any other job. So it's worked.
Well, I'm glad it's worked out for you.
Worked out well in the end. And coming out of football away from Southend in my mid-20s, although it hurt, and although I was pretty devastated at losing my love for football and the way it all happened, it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me.
Have you bumped into Alan a little since?
Having that second career? No.
Okay.
On a fun note, I don't blame him.
It's the game, isn't it? It's the game. It's the game.
He's trying to do his job.
Yeah.
It's not because of him. It's just his circumstance sometimes. Yeah. And it was meant to be that was going to come out and do what I'm doing now.
Look at where you are now. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a great believer in that. On a final note, with both your heads on, you're journalist and journalist, fan and ex-player. Just a message to the Southend fans about what's going on at the moment and how you see it going in the future?
Yeah, I don't know, just well done on sticking. My message to the fans is well done for sticking with the team and for coming out and supporting the team in such numbers through the darkest of days. It must have been so stressful. I was a bit stressed out from, distance away. I don't know, can't imagine what it was like for you guys listening, but you've got the right man in the technical area now. You've got someone that will do the right thing by the team, by the players, and hopefully we get the right ownership in, so that we can have a platform to build and to grow and to get back to where we belong. And where we belong isn't just in the EFL, by the way. Where we belong is at least in the third tier of English football. Southend United should be in League One, and that's the goal, I think, for everyone associated with the club. Get back there. Hopefully the club will modernise and find other ways of making money, and just sort of reinvent itself in the years and decades to come. So yeah, fingers crossed. I believe because Southend is a pretty special place. Like, it's tucked away there at the end of Essex. Everyone really does care about it. There's a real passion there, and I believe that we will get back there.
Well, when you finally get down to watch a game this season, Clarkey, give me a shout, and I'll cash in some of them beer tokens that you say you owe me.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, we did. Yeah, maybe need to go full hog.
Yeah, get your wig on. I'll take you down a toothbrush.
Get myself a travel lodge, and we'll hit the town, Bernie.
I sound a little bit Alan Partridge, mate. Okay,
it's the least I owe you, mate. So yeah, no, thank you, and thanks for today. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Been nice to sort of have a little reminisce.
Yeah, good to catch up, mate. Take care. Speak to you soon. Cheers, Clarkey. Bye.